Hey guys, Dan here from Your Guitar Academy and welcome to lesson 1 of this electric blues course. And what we're going to be doing over the kind of duration of this entire course is covering everything you need to really understand electric blues, okay? And that means that we'll be covering our caged chord 7th chords, dominant 7th chords, we'll be covering our major and minor crossover, we'll be covering how to take the more subtle techniques on the guitar to really make your kind of guitar lead tone sound more vocal, sound like it's singing essentially, so that we can bring out the best of your playing. And loads more along the way. We make sure to tackle all the theories you need. And in this unit, what we're going to be looking at is your first blues guitar solo. So we're going to be taking a riff and a solo, all based around the minor, pentatonic, and the blues scale. So we're kind of be going into that as well, and really zoning in on how to take a single note or a couple of notes and make them sound as good as they can possibly sound. Those subtle blues techniques that is going to take your playing up to the next level. So pick up your guitar, and in this lesson we're going to get started. Hey guys, so if you're just tuning in, then do remember that you can head on over to the website to get all of the interactive tab, the fretboard diagrams, and the full write-ups for every single lesson. It looks great on the mobile, on the desktop, however you're viewing it. Head over there and we'll put the links in the description and in this video. Also, please do like and subscribe to this video if you're enjoying it so far and if you're enjoying the course, as well as leave us a comment. We make sure we get back to every single comment that you guys leave. Okay then guys, so that's the riff that we're going to be learning and the solo. Now, we'll get to the solo in the next couple of lessons, but let's go through the riff today. And something really important I want to introduce here, which is the blues scale. Okay, so if you're tackling this course, then I'm assuming you're okay with the pentatonic scale shapes, the minor pentatonic shapes across the neck. If you're really not, then I would really recommend taking another course that we've got, which I'll link to in this video here and in the description. But we will be going through them in some sort of detail, but it's definitely a kind of grounding I would say you needed before tackling this full course, okay? But we will be going through them here. Now, the kind of riff is really based around this minor pentatonic with the addition of the blues note. So let's just talk about that first quickly. So the blues note is this concept of when you've got this minor pentatonic. So here we're dealing with a G minor pentatonic. Okay, so the G minor pentatonic is the 5-note scale: root, flat third, 4th, 5th, flat 7, and then root. And you should definitely know this first shape. Okay, for the pentatonic. Now, when we're talking about blues scale, what we're doing is we're taking that 5-note minor pentatonic scale and we're adding in something called the flattened 5th, okay? So if this is your 5th, that's your 5th, we're literally going to be adding in this note here, okay? And that is just, we call it a chromatic note as well. It's a note that you want to kind of go through, but never really land on. So you'll see licks like this, or or as you get to them, you can do them all over the neck, of course, but you always will play using them as like a trill note or a sliding through note or a passing through note chromatic, but you will never hear hanging on that, because it really, the blues note is an out note, it's a color note, okay? So what it does is it brings a little bit more bluesiness to it, a bit more color, a bit more vibe, a bit more style, whatever word you want to use, but it's deliberately used around that pentatonic. So your safety notes are your 5 pentatonic notes, and if you want to just add that little blues note in, it just brings in a little bit of extra color, okay? So for that reason, I wouldn't recommend necessarily going away and learning 5 shapes for the blues scale. What we're going to be doing is bringing it in here and there, and you'll gradually kind of pick up where it is. But essentially, if you learn your pentatonics right, you can always add it in. Remember, it's after the root, flat third, fourth, flat fifth, and fifth. So as you keep going through the scale, flat 7, root, third, fourth, flat fifth, so that's your next kind of blues note, then fifth, flat 7, root. So in that first shape, you add it in there, and that's the end of it, okay? So like I said, as we go through the solo especially, we're going to be kind of highlighting where those notes are, because we use them a lot in our blues playing. So rather than like, here's 5 shapes, go away and spend hours learning that, it's just the minor pentatonic, and I'm going to be highlighting where that blues note comes in, okay? Now for our riff, it sounds like this. And we're going to be kind of looping that in various positions. Okay, so let's just kind of go through this. So we start by tackling the root note of G, so in the key of G here, and we're going to go down, down. So 2 downstrokes. Then I'm going to hammer on from the flat 7 to the root, so from the 3rd fret to the 7th fret on the D string. And that's the octave. Okay, nice little octave attack there. And then as soon as you've done that, you're going to kind of you're going to go down through the blues scale to there. Okay, so you're going to go from the 3rd fret, so the flat 7, to the 5th, to the flat 5th. Then you're going to drop down to the minor, the flat 3rd. So rather than playing it here on the E string, we're going to drop down to this position where we play it on the 1st fret of the A string, and then we're going to come back to the start. Okay, so we get this. Second time round, rather than coming down to this position, we're just going to simply go to that little finger on the 6th fret, so it's still that flat, that minor 3rd, and just hit it once. And then start again. Okay, so really kind of slowly here, okay, noticing all those notes. And remember, I am referring to them theoretically. I just think that's a better idea at this point. If you're really trying to get into the blues and develop your playing past an intermediate level, then this is what you need to be referring to notes rather than fret number 3, fret number 5. Okay, so it's good for you. The fret numbers are all on the tab, which are of course available on the website and download. And if you've bought the course, then in your ebook. So. Okay, so that's your main riff. Okay, now I want to bring some attention here to some of the finer details that I think are the most important parts of this, because you can play that, you know. But to play it like this, now that's got style. That's dirty. This is dirty blues, okay? And that sounds good to my ear. So there's a couple of techniques that we're utilizing there to really make that work. And the techniques are vibrato and quarter tone bends. So first of all, your first instance of real vibrato is on that hammer-on note. So when you hammer on the octave, I want you to really get a grip of that. Look where my fingers go. So I've got my 3rd finger there on the note, and the other 2 fingers are behind that, the thumbs round the top, and I'm getting a really even vibrato feel on that, okay? And I really want you to pay attention to those kind of details, okay? Okay, because playing the blues is not about learning a blues scale. It's not about being able to play the pentatonic really fast, and it's not even just about being able to play, you know, a standard 12 bar. It's about feeling what you play. It's about kind of transposing what you feel and that kind of sound that you love onto the guitar. You know, and part of that can come through this technique, which is your vibrato. Okay, nice, slow, even vibrato. Sounds really good here. Then your next instance of a technique that brings out the best of it is this little quarter bend. So when we're down here, I'm going to grab that first fret on the A string, so this flat third note, and I'm just going to give it a little nudge downwards. And the key thing about a quarter bend is that you're not bending up a half step. That's literally bending to the next note. It's not a full bend, it's not a half bend, it's a quarter bend. So it's just literally bending out of tune, essentially. But as soon as you hear the note go out of tune, you stop it, okay? It's similar to the idea of the blues note in that it's creating a little bit more tension, a little bit more character and color to the sound. And by stopping it, you create this almost kind of question. You've heard of great players like B.B. King and Eric Clapton talk about creating a kind of question mark. That's one way to do that, you know? Okay? As long as when you get down and you hear the note start to change, you stop it dead. And you just do that by resting the plectrum or your fingers onto the string so that it stops dead. Okay? And the same thing goes for when you're here as well. We do that same little bluesy curl. And you can hear how slowly I'm going through that. And only right at the end, when it changes, do I come back to that note, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to put that on loop with the drum beat. Now this track's at around 80 BPM, so we're going to go right down to 65 BPM, okay? With a bit of a swing, eighth notes kind of style. And I'm just going to play that riff on loop, okay? Before we get into the next lesson where we'll talk about the next riff and so on. So let's kind of go through this nice and slowly. Try and consciously pay attention to those extra ideas. So, you know, you're either going to be at one of two levels here. You're going to be at a level where you really need to work quite hard just to get the physical fingers moving through that comfortably. If that's where you are, don't worry too much about that vibrato and that bend yet, okay? Add that when you can. But if you are at that level where you're kind of relatively comfortable going through a riff like this, then really consciously try and add that vibrato and that bend, okay? So here's our beat, okay? And just try and loop it with me, okay? I'm gonna go through it a few times. 3, 4. Let's go round again. Okay, what we'll do is we'll slow that down a little bit more. We'll go to 55 for those of you who are not quite at that pace yet. 4, 1, and 2. At this pace, time. Okay, so there we have it. There's the first thing that I want you guys to learn before the next lesson. So really focus in, dial in on that, try and get that repeated round and round. Add those techniques if you can. I would say, you know, from day one, I'm going to be talking about this stuff. When it comes to blues playing, the most important part is the details of it. But of course, you need the fingers to be working on your side first. So don't worry about that too much if you're not quite at that level yet, but it's something to be bearing in mind as we go forward. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We do our absolute best to answer every single comment. If you've got questions, here is the place to write them so that we can get back to you and really help you out with this stuff. If you want to carry on with this course and you're loving it, then you can find the next lesson right here, and you can start the whole thing. The whole playlist is here on YouTube as well. So click one of those two links and I'll see you in the next lesson.